Hello, I'm Jamie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Series 2 of the US Ghosts, particularly which ghost could have moved on, because they ended the series quite boldly on this mystery that one of the ghosts has moved on and we don't know which one, which I think was a really fun way to end the series. There was a much bigger gap between Series 2 and Series 3 due to the writers and actors strikes in America, and thankfully they got what they needed, and I think that's finally, it took way too long, but we're finally at a stage where production can resume in America, which is wonderful. So yeah, I thought it'd be fun to do a little review on Series 2 and also then talk about who I think could have moved on. So overall thoughts on Series 2. I thought this was a really, really fun season. I think it's very silly, and I think it carries over a lot of that warmth and silliness that we have in the UK version. One thing that I particularly love about the US one is the exploration of all the ghost lore and all the different things that the ghosts can get up to. They definitely play with that a lot more than at the UK one. And this is mainly down to the fact that the US one has more episodes. It's very much an American sitcom format, 20 minutes an episode, and they have like 20 episodes a season. And then with the UK one, we're very stereotypical as to UK sitcoms as well, because we have 6 episodes a season at half an hour an episode. So there is a lot more room for the American Ghosts creators to explore different plot lines to do with the ghost's abilities and what it is like to be a ghost and all the different things that the ghosts can get up to. There's been people setting traps for the ghosts that surprisingly work. I wasn't expecting them to. Ghosts possessing humans. One little plotline they had with Jessica, who was the car ghost. I thought that was really cool, playing with the idea of the ghost boundaries. So as we know in the show, all the ghosts are confined to the boundaries of the manor house, whereas she is confined to the boundaries of this car and a few steps in the circumference of the car, which I think is a really fun plotline for them to play with. There's also plotlines of them making deals with the devil and Hetty's evil husband, which they've done lots of fun things and played around with the the experience of being a ghost, and I think that's really fun. Definitely playing into the more stereotypical versions of ghosts that we see, with the possessing and things like that. Not quite spooky floating ghosts, but a bit more with that. Whereas in the UK one, they've definitely taken a much different approach to the ghost of it being, just like a normal human who very rarely has any abilities. One of my favourite plot lines was Alberta's plotline, where she tries to figure out who killed her. And yeah, I felt like there was so much development here. And at first I did think they were going to reveal it, because all the other ghosts' deaths have been explained quite quickly. Whereas, I know I keep comparing it to the UK one, it's hard not to. But in the UK one, we're at Series 5 and we've only just found out how 2 of the ghosts died. So I really liked that there was a bit more explanation with her and a bit more development and mystery around it. I think it really fit, with her character as well. I think she was the best person to do this with. Obviously, we had a little bit with Trevor as well, whereas we kind of knew a little bit about he died, but we didn't know the full story, and I think that they did a really good job with that as well. So yeah, overall, I thought those are the main positives. I think they've got some really fun plot lines, and I do really enjoy all of the ghosts. I think they're really fun characters, and I think that they are quite different from each other, which is quite fun. You get a lot of conflicting things and a really good contrast, but again, coming together as a big family, which is really nice. I also really do enjoy both Samantha and Jay. I think they've managed to translate them really, really well. That I wouldn't say that they're that similar at all to Alison and Mike. I think in many ways they're the characters that have most changed from the adaptations. I also like that we get to see Sam and Jay actually running the bed and breakfast. It's something that we never really got to see in the UK one. But yeah, they actually fully open the B&B and have guests and have an employee. And, there's lots of exploration about different people staying in the hotel and all the different things that relate to that. And I think as well, more exploration about the ghosts' families, and relationships outside of being a ghost. So we had Pete's daughter's wedding, which was really nice. We had Trevor's family come over, and I thought all of that was really sweet, a really nice exploration. I thought the wedding was really, really lovely, and the way that they managed to pull it together at the end. One of my main complaints about the show, and again, it's not major, but I do think that sometimes they move, like the plot lines move a bit too quickly. And this may just be due to like the actors' availability and stuff like that. And I'm aware that with this, like the pace of the sitcom, like sometimes that does happen. But I would have loved to have more of Jessica, have her stay for a little bit longer. Because again, like I said, I think she's a really interesting character, and there's lots of fun things that they could have explored with her being like a car ghost. Maybe she'll come back. I mean, she is attached to a car, so there is a chance that she could come back. And obviously with Jessica, it also meant that the employee, I can't remember his name, the employee went as well. And I think having him was quite interesting, you know, them running this house that is haunted by ghosts that Sam is often distracted by. And he figured it out. He realised there were ghosts there. And I think they definitely could have prolonged that and had him kind of snooping around a bit more. And like, I think that was a really, really fun idea. And I just think they could have played with that a bit more. Like, they had him figure out the ghosts were there from like the CCTV seeing Trevor move something. And then he brought in the ghost trap, which he actually managed to catch a ghost. Like, I just thought it was a really, like, they definitely could have done more with that because it was a really good idea. And then something else that, like, again, like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's just, I feel like the plots could be used in a different way, and I do think that they sometimes focus a bit too much on like romantic relationships between the ghosts, and I definitely like some of them. I think like the pairings work very well individually, but I just feel like sometimes we've just got like all these different relationships. Like I like Flower and Thor, I like Nigel and Isaac. I think their relationship is very interesting, the way it's progressing. And you know, we had a little proposal, so that was really sweet, and I loved that. And Trevor and Hetty is a surprising but I think really works couple as well. Then we had Sass and Jessica. So like, again, like I said, like individually, I think all those relationships and pairings are good, but I just think there's perhaps a bit too much focus on that, whereas I personally would prefer more of like, you know, the interactions with the guests. Like maybe somebody else figures out that there's ghosts and they have to deal with that, and or maybe it becomes like a ghost hunting spot. Like there's so many fun things that they could do to play with the ideas of being a ghost, the limitations of it, perhaps the more of the blurring of the lines between the ghost world and the human world, because they're doing that really well in my opinion. So I personally would love to see more of that, but I know a lot of other people do really like the relationships. But yes, on to the cliffhanger. And yes, I genuinely wasn't expecting this. It did take me by surprise. And theoretically, I think it could be any of the ghosts. There has been lots of character development, and if we take the idea that they have to come to terms with something, they've got some unfinished business, something like that, then that causes them to move on. I think there's definitely reason to believe that it could be anybody. Obviously, that doesn't take into account the actors. That's the main kind of thing that maybe like confirm or deny certain things for the ghosts. But yes, so let's just go through. I think it's fun to just go through all the characters. As I said, everybody has a reason to move on. So Hetty, for example, she forgave her husband very reluctantly, but she did forgive him, which I think is something that would take a lot of courage to do. He treated her horribly and was awful. So yeah, that I think was a really big thing that could cause somebody to move on. We've also got her becoming more open about her sexuality and appreciating Trevor more. There's less shame attached to her romantic and sexual feelings. And then she also opened up about her son and the fact that he was the one that killed Alberta. Again, a very brave thing to do. You don't really, like, that would have been something that must be very difficult to come to terms with. So as I said, there's lots of things that could potentially trigger her to move on. Also linked to that, Alberta, she did forgive Hetty for hiding the fact that her son killed Alberta, which again, it's something that's must be very, very difficult to forgive. And she also obviously found out who killed her, which was something that was definitely weighing on her. Again, very, very strong reasonings as to why she might be the one to move on. Isaac, again, someone who's had a lot of development, you know, proposing to Nigel, asking him to move in, all that, like, he had a very, very slow progress in his relationship, because he probably was a bit scared that it was finally happening, and so the development of that getting through that, and eventually proposing to Nigel, doing something very, very big, and I am excited to see where that goes in the next season, whether they do get married. But again, those things could be something that could trigger a ghost moving on. And again, same thing with Nigel. I think he was very good in this season. I think he very clearly expressed and was very open about his feelings and expectations. And I think that was really, really important. For Flower as well, there's been a lot of development into her character and into her past. I think the episode with the cult and her reaching out to her brother was really sweet. And again, opening up about her trauma of losing her partner when she was a lawyer, and how that destroyed her approach to relationships because she didn't want to be hurt again. I thought that was so, so sad. And again, her eventually slowly coming over that, not getting over it, but you know what I mean, becoming more open to a relationship. And it explains a lot about her character. And I think I thought that was a really sweet development for her. I think as well, she could be the one to move on in that sense. Thor, again, he's getting close to his son, learning what it's like to be a father. And Pete as well, he got to see his daughter get married and feeling a lot closer to his family. So again, as I said, there's all reasons for the main characters to move on. Trevor probably hasn't really developed that much, but I guess he's the newest ghost. He is in a committed relationship, and that's sweet. And he's had kind of getting over trauma with his parents getting divorced, him thinking he was the reason, and wanting to get them back together, and eventually realising that's not going to happen. But I think the ghosts that are most likely to be moving on are some of the more minor characters. So Stephanie, obviously one of her things was that she really wanted a boyfriend, and she got that with one of the cholera ghosts. And I think she's probably the strongest contender to have moved on, because her character's so young. She's 17, so her actor is going to age and not look 17. So yeah, she's probably the most likely to move on, in my opinion. And I'm only, again, as I said, I'm only really taking into account the ghosts, not necessarily what the actors are doing, if they've got any other big jobs or anything that might cause them to leave the show. But in terms of the ghosts, again, as I said, she's got what she wanted, which was a relationship, so that might be a trigger for her to move on. Crash as well, I thought it was a bit weird that he randomly appeared. Yeah, I think he could potentially move on, but again, there was no real development in his episode. He finished the way he started, so again, I don't think there's any reason for him to move along. But I did find his episode quite fun. This mystery about who hid him in the woods. I thought that was really funny. And again, I was surprised that he went back. I thought they were reintroducing him back into the season. I was quite surprised when he was got rid of again, because I think I thought he was going to come back, because he was in the pilot and in all the promotional videos, but never actually became a solid character. But maybe he'll be one that appears again, like Stephanie. And again, it could be one of the cholera ghosts. Nancy is the only one that we really know. All the others are just kind of background. But yeah, Nancy could be the one to move on. She appears more in the show, but I think that the writers like using Nancy in the episodes. I think just because she's so different, she's a lot smarter than all the other cholera ghosts, and I think she is quite an interesting character as well. And then there is the ghost that likes Nigel and is trying to destroy Nigel and Isaac's relationship. He could move on, I guess, but it seemed the light and stuff came from the house, and he's not in the main house, so it might not have been him. But yeah, I think, as I said, there is a reason for every ghost to be the one to have moved on, because, as I said, there's been so much development, in character development out the series and in big things that have happened to each ghost. I think it's got to be one of the minor characters. I don't see, at least before the strike, I don't see any of the actors leaving the show now, because it's really popular, and it just seems to be growing in popularity. So I think to leave now, I don't really see it. But again, it could be a post-strike decision about who moves on. Maybe they didn't know who moved on when they wrote it, and they're gonna like come up with the idea when it airs. I think it's airing in February of 2024. So yeah, I'm really interested to find out who it is. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. It really helps the channel, and comment down below your thoughts on who moved on. I'm really interested to see what you guys think, and subscribe if you want to see more videos to do with Ghost. We'll have some more out for you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.